Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at how I'm going to transport my kayaks with my fifth wheel camper. If you're new to this channel, I'm Jason and I share camping tips and tricks, some of the adventures we go on, and some product reviews and installs like this one. Now, earlier this summer we purchased a pair of kayaks to take with us camping or take out to the lake. And if you want to see more about those kayaks, I'll put a link in the video description down below, or I'll link it up in the cards that should pop up on the screen here. But when we got the kayaks, we hadn't really figured out yet how we were going to transport them. On our first trip, it was a local, so we took a trip out to the campsite, dropped off the camper, drove back home, picked up the kayaks, and drove back out to the lake, and realized pretty quick we didn't want to do that, especially if we were going farther away. We tried putting the kayaks in the back of the truck for that, and it actually didn't work out that well. I'll put a little picture on the screen here of what it looked like. I had several tie downs on them, but I was still kind of afraid they might fly out of the bed of my truck. So we needed a better solution. I considered building a rack that would mount on the back of my fifth wheel, or purchasing a pre-made kayak rack that would hold them vertically on the back of the camper. But both those options didn't appeal to me. The back bumper of my fifth wheel isn't all that strong looking. I've seen horror stories of bumpers getting ripped off from bike racks, so I didn't really want to do that. And plus, some of the pre-made racks are very expensive. So what I decided to do was I'm going to install a roof rack with kayak holders, and because of the way my truck's laid out with a crew cab truck and the fifth wheel sitting a little further back, I think I've still got plenty of room for turning without worrying about the kayak smacking into the front of the fifth wheel. This solution would also work if you're pulling with a bumper pull travel trailer or just to move kayaks around on their own. I've got all the parts laid out on the ground here in my garage, and we'll take a quick look over everything that I purchased and see how it looks, and then we'll get started on the install. And again, I'll link up in the video description down below all the products and links to them so you can check them out. And then if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I'm going to start over here with the Whispbar racks that I purchased. The model number for the racks that fit on my Ram truck is the S11. There are several different sizes, and if you go on Whispbar's website, it'll help you select the proper size. In the kit, you'll receive the 2 racks. You'll also receive the keys for the locks, 2 foot pads. I'm not really sure why there's 2 sets of foot pads, but I'm sure I'll figure that out once I take a look at the instructions. And a Allen wrench screwdriver for tightening down the racks. In addition to the rack itself, you have to buy a fit kit, and that includes these 4 brackets and some 3M sticky backed pads to protect the finish on your vehicle. The S11 racks are for any vehicle that's the same width as my truck, and then this fit kit gives you the specific bracket you'll need. For me, the fit kit required is a K548W kit, and that'll fit pretty much any crew cab Ram truck, 1500 through heavy duty series. Next, let's take a look at the kayak racks I purchased to go on the Whispbars. I purchased the TMS kayak racks, and to be honest, I was looking for something that was pretty cost effective. The reviews on these on Amazon, it had pretty good reviews. I think it was about 4.5 stars at the time I purchased. You can check Amazon yourself and see if they've changed since then. But it comes with 2 racks, all the mounting hardware and brackets, as well as 2 tie downs that are used to strap around the racks and hold the kayaks in place. So on here you can see this one I haven't assembled yet, and this rack on the right is partially assembled just without the bolts in it yet. But I purchased 2 sets of these racks. One will go on the driver's side and one will go on the passenger side to hold the 2 kayaks we have. We'll see how those look and how the kayaks fit on them after I get the bars mounted on the top of the truck. The last thing I purchased for hauling the kayaks is a pair of these ropes. They've got a hook on each end, and then a little slide latch on the cable on the rope itself, and that'll be used to hold the front and the back of the kayaks in place so that they can't slide forward or backward. And then the tie downs that were included with the racks will be used to hold the kayaks so they stay securely down onto the rack itself. So I just finished reading through the Whispbar installation instructions, and they're pretty vague. The only real hard dimension they give you is that the 2 bars need to be at least 27.5 inches apart from each other. Besides that, it's all kind of just make it fit. So the first step will be to use the keys and remove the locks and covers off the ends of the bars. Once those are removed, you loosen up the adjusting screw, and that allows you to slide the bars in and out and adjust the width of the bars. This is a point where I thought there would be some guidance in the instructions telling you how far to adjust them, a spacing that's vehicle specific, but there's not really a spacing. It just says to adjust them evenly. After that, there's a locking screw that you take out, and once that's removed, you can fit the bracket that comes in the fit kit down into the foot of the bar. And after that, you put the rubber foot pad on the bottom and then position it on the vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, and we'll see how it goes. You can see the fit kit here includes two different clamping feet. One is a little longer and wider than the other, and these are used to hold it onto the door. The 765A part, which is the smaller one, is used in the front, and then a slightly larger one, which is stamped, you probably can't see that, but it's stamped with 766A, that's used for the rear. Now before installing these, you want to make sure that this metal surface isn't going to scratch up your vehicle. So to do that, they've included some 3M sticky pads that you're just supposed to stick on and then wrap around. That was pretty painless, so I'll just go ahead and repeat that same process for the other 4 feet. You can see the bar is kind of in an intermediate position. To adjust them out to a wider width, you'll loosen this screw. They say about 10 turns, but what you really need is the head of this screw to be sticking out a little bit past the plastic, because that's actually the screw becomes a button, and then you can slide the bar back to increase that width here at the top. Once we position it on the vehicle, we'll center that up and tighten it down for the proper width. Now we'll take a look at installing the clamp. To do that, we'll use the included tool again and remove this set screw. Once the set screw is removed, this clamping foot will fit up underneath and line up with the hole. And then the locking screw can be reinstalled and just snugged up until the end is locking this clamp in place. This is what will tighten up to draw the clamping foot in and lock it securely on the roof. And again, you want to make sure you use the part number for the front on the same rail and the foot for the back on the same rail. You don't want to mix those two up. The last step is just to fit these rubber feet on the bottom of the bars. And those are just there to protect the finish of your vehicle. When I was going through the contents of the package, I had mentioned that I wasn't sure why there were 2 sets of feet. It's obvious to me now I need 2 sets of feet because I have 2 bars and each bar has 2 feet. So that's 4 of the rubber feet, and that's what I had in the package. Now I'm going to go ahead and line them up on the roof. One thing to note when you're installing these on the roof is, I don't know if you'll be able to tell here, but there's a wing profile. It's thicker on this front edge and thinner on the back edge. So the front edge is the leading edge. That's going to go towards the front of your vehicle. Now, again, they didn't give much guidance on positioning these, so I'm going to put this one as close to the front as I think I can, and then I'll put the other one back, just making sure I'm at least that 27.5-inch spacing between rails. That way I can keep the kayaks towards the front and give me more clearance between the back of the kayak and my fifth wheel when I'm hauling it. When positioning the racks on the roof, there's some slots on the bottom of the plastic foot, and I was using those to line up. I ended up needing to snap it into the position where I could see 2 slots on each side for the front rail, and that allowed me to make sure that I was going to be centered up on the roof. The last thing I need to do is make sure that I've got the rails even from front to back so that the rail is straight across the roof. To do that, I'm going to use the back door as a measuring point, and I'll measure from there to the back of the foot. On this side, I'm at 15 1/4 inches, so I'll head around to the other side and make it match. I ended up going back and forth about 2 more times to get the set screws snugged up and even on both sides, and it got to a point where the set screws were just about completely flush with the foot. They still had about a 1/4 inch more travel I could go, but it's nice and snug now. So the last step is just to take these foot plate or covers and slide the cover on, and then lock it in place with the key. With both covers on there, now I'm going to go ahead and position the rear crossbar and get that one secured down near the back. So I didn't get the second bar on yet because I had to go pick Sydney up from gymnastics class, but now that we're back, I'm going to go ahead and get started on installing that rear bar. Well, both racks are installed on the truck now, and other than the instructions being a little vague, they went in pretty easy. I'd say the total time to put them on after you've got everything out of the box and ready to go is maybe 10 minutes per rack, so it's pretty quick. The first one maybe took a little longer, the second one went a little faster, but I say on average 10 to 15 minutes per bar is about right for putting these on, so that's a pretty easy install. Now I'm going to go ahead and put together the 2 Kayak J racks, and then we'll get those mounted on the bars. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and use the back of the truck here as a workbench to put this together. It's pretty simple. You've got 2 sides of the J-rack that lock into each other here. This rubber pad mount piece goes in between the 2. So we'll go ahead and slide that on first. And then fit the 2 pieces together into there. And the last step is just make sure you've got all the holes aligned in the tubes and that bracket. You can see I've already got this one assembled the same way. Now cut open the hardware pack. I'm going to go ahead and start here by installing the first J-rack on the back of the truck on the rear bar. So we'll just position that over the bar. Put the bottom clamping plate on. The flat washer. And the threaded knob. And then just repeat that same thing over here on the other side. Well, I'm just about done with the installation, and if you notice, I've got 3 of the 4 racks up there on the top of the truck. You may also notice that the first rack I mounted on the crossbar is missing. It's not actually missing. What I found out is I had installed the crossbar backwards. I put the front of the crossbar towards the rear of the truck. I noticed that when I was tightening down the rack. So I had to go ahead and take off the crossbar, spin it around, and put it back on. So the first rack I put on is actually on the other side of the vehicle now. I've got this last rack here ready to go. And another lesson I learned is to go ahead and put the washer and the knob and the bracket on here first. And that way you can just set it over the crossbar, swing this one around, and lift it up into place. And you don't have to fight with trying to hold everything in place while you're mounting the bar, or mounting the bracket on the bar, I should say. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm measuring from this front edge of the bracket to the edge of the crossbar. That way I can make sure I get all these in line so my kayaks will sit straight in line with the truck. I'm going to go ahead and get this last one on, and then I can't actually put the kayaks up tonight because I'm home alone. My wife's working tonight and won't be home till tomorrow. So when Melina gets home, we'll go ahead and try and put them up there. The kayaks are over 70 pounds a piece, and I just don't want to risk dropping it off the first time. Depending on how it goes, I may do it myself in the future, but I'd like to try it as a two-man job the first time. So when she gets home, we'll get back and finish this video up. Well, the plan was to get the kayaks on the rack the next night, and that didn't happen because we were a little too busy. So now it's Friday, and we're getting ready to leave for a camping trip, and we're going to get the kayaks put up there. This will be the first time we put them on the rack, and then we're heading all the way to Michigan, so hopefully everything goes smoothly. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the camera here recording while we put them up for the first time, and you'll see exactly how easily or difficult it is to get them up there. Well, the first one was a little difficult to get up there, and it looks like the straps that it came with may be a little too short, so I've got to get some longer tie downs to put on it. But we're going to go ahead and try the second one. I think we're going to try it the same way this time. I'm not sure if we can come up with a better plan or not, but we'll give it a shot. Using a towel on the roof made it a little bit easier to get them up there. Now we just got to get them tied down. I'm going to use some regular ratchet tie downs on the front, and if that works out okay when we come home, I may switch it out and use 4 ratchet tie downs just because they're a little more secure hold, and they may be easier to get on than trying to get 2 of the other tie downs. To put the tie downs on the front, instead of trying to throw them over the top, I'm going to go ahead and try and take this loop, or the tie down, loop it around the bar, and then just pull it up around the front of the kayak and see if that goes a little easier. Now that they're up there and tied down, all that's left is to attach these ropes from the front and back to secure them so they can't slide forward or towards the back of the truck. We've got the back secured, but the front may be a little more challenging because I can't stand on the bed of the truck like I did for the backside.
All right.
What
Done.
do you think? Are you still afraid?
I'm terrified.
Are you more afraid now?
Yep.
All right, well, it's on there. And that pretty much completes the installation of the kayak rack. So I'll report back after we get up to Michigan and let you know how it went. Now that we've got the camper hitched up to the truck, it looks like it's a little close with the kayaks in the front of the camper. So we'll take it slow, pulling out of the house, and I'll make a sharp turn and make sure we've got enough clearance. If not, I'll have to climb up and readjust the kayaks a little further forward.
touch. You're there. You're touching.
Well, we didn't have enough turning radius, so we've went up and moved the kayaks forward about a foot, and we're going to give it another shot and see how this one goes. Well, we made it about 15 miles up to the entrance to the turnpike. So we're gonna get out, check the kayaks, make sure all the tie downs and straps are all tight, and then continue on our way to Michigan. Well, everything looked good, so we're gonna get going. We just got home from our first trip with the kayaks, and overall I'd say it was pretty successful. The combination of the Whispbar and the 2 sets of kayak racks worked pretty well. There's a couple of things I didn't like, a couple of things I do like. One, I like that I can take them with me and they're not hanging off the back, worrying about them bouncing around or scraping on the ground when I go over a bump. They are definitely cutting down on my turning radius. This time, when we put them back on after we were done camping, we shifted them forward about a foot from where I had them when we left to go to the campground. And that did help out quite a bit with how sharp I was able to turn. I was able to get back into my driveway with no problem. But it is still definitely cutting down on my turning a little bit. So if you're going to consider this setup, you may want to look at how far the kayaks would extend behind the cab of your truck. And I'll go and take a shot going all the way around so you can see how it looks here. Also, the bars did seem to move a little bit, and I'm not sure what was going on there, if they were a little loose. Not much, but I can see that the rubber pad on the foot has shifted a little bit from where they were when I put them on. I'm probably going to pull those little stick-on rubber pieces off and replace them with some Plasti Dip. I'll just dip those feet, and then the plastic should stay on and not have to come off. I also had a little bit of a problem with the rope on the front that ties down, or I'm sorry, the rope on the back. It's the same one I've got on the front as well, but on the back we hit a big bump on the way up to the campground, and the kayaks bounced a little bit and that hook actually came loose. So I'm either going to replace the hook with a carabiner or maybe look for a different rope ratchet system that already has that built in. There was one other change we made on the ride home, and that was to put a twist in all of the tie-down straps. By putting a twist in the straps, it stopped them from vibrating in the wind, and that quieted down the ride quite a bit. On the way up, it was almost unbearable how noisy it was. We had the radio cranked up just to overcome the sound of the straps buzzing. But on the way home, the only wind noise we heard was just a little bit from the racks and the kayaks themselves. Nothing like the ride down when it was buzzing like crazy. Again, overall, it was pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way everything turned out. And if you're considering getting one of these or doing the same setup, I'd say it's a good idea. Go ahead and leave any comments if you've got any questions for me about the setup I've got. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and watch for a follow-up video where I'll show you those modifications I'm going to make.
It's a good campground.
Well, and Bryce snuck up behind me and said that it was a good campground. If you want to see more about the campground, you can go ahead and check out my video review of that. It's Sterling State Park up in Michigan, and I'll have a full video review of that campground as well. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.